Mikey Kunene, the landlord. Articulating
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Price of Fame. This is episode 13, season 2. My name is Lunga Tshuka, and I'll be your host. And tonight's guest, ladies and gentlemen, is a South African motorsport expert. He's an MC. He's a professional drifter and TV personality, most famously known for his position hosting Mzanzi Ridez alongside DJ Ready D, as well as So You Think You Can Spin. But without further ado, please, ladies and gents, welcome to the screen, the man with the drifting skills. He goes with the name of Victor Pardal.
What happening, homie? What happening?
Damn, bro. Good evening, Victor, man. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good, homeboy. You good?
I'm very well, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for allowing us to have you on the Price of Fame, being a guest on the show. It's truly an honor to have you on the show, man. Truly appreciate it. Thank you for giving us your time. I'm so looking forward to learning about you tonight.
I thank you first and foremost. You know, I appreciate everybody that's pushing their own and trying to uplift the community as a whole. I think here in South Africa, we need a lot more of that.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to uplift each other and inspire each other through our stories. And that's why we're here at the Price of Fame tonight. Where are you currently tuning in from? Are you in Cape Town now or Johannesburg? Where you at, man?
I'm a Jozi South boy through and through. You know, I got humble beginnings in the inner city of Jozi, but I currently reside in the south side of Joburg.
Okay. What's the weather like there, that side? I mean, with us right now, it's kind of like tricky, but we're expecting rain. We're in between rain now at the moment.
That was the word I was going to use. It's been challenging and tricky at the same time. Joburg winters get really, really cold, deep, like that dry cold. We had a spell of really cold weather last week. We had a little bit of sunshine during the weekend, and now it looks like we're going downhill back to the cold.
Yeah. Do you guys get any snow that side? Because like on a real cold day in Cape Town down here, some of the mountains will actually gather some snow. I've never actually heard of anything about Joburg experiencing any snow like that. Do you guys get snow there ever?
No, not really. The last time I experienced snow, man, I was in primary school, and I wouldn't call it snow as much as it was sleet. But as a young kid, you know, if white stuff was falling from the sky, it's as close as you get to snow up in Jozi. So, no, it definitely hasn't snowed in Joburg that I can remember for at least the last like 15 to 20 years, maybe.
Yeah. And have you lived anywhere else besides Joburg? Have you ever spent like maybe a year or any longer periods living somewhere else, learning about a different place and the culture?
Not really. I've been blessed to travel here and there. I actually spent about 6 months up in Kaapstad, which was a real eye-opener, especially coming from Joburg. I think Cape Town lifestyle is very unique and very different to the rest of South Africa, which I thoroughly enjoyed and was an eye-opener for myself. But yeah, I've mostly been a Jozi boy through my life, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, so we've been through a lot, you know, with the past 2 years that we just got over. Most of us just got back on our feet again, business-wise, entertainment-wise, and also just mental strength-wise, you know. It's been a real roller coaster. And, you know, when the year starts, we always have this bucket lists for ourselves and everything like that. Or we just like have like a mindset that we want to take on. So for 2020, you know, 2022, sorry, this year, walking into this year, what was your mindset, you know, walking into 2022?
You know, I think if there's anything that the last 2 years have taught us as entertainers and the world as a whole is you have to adapt and evolve. You have to adapt and evolve to the circumstances you find yourself, whether it be in your industry, at home, financially. you need to adapt and evolve. As soon as you stop changing and you stay comfortable in a plateau, then that means, you know, your success is going to stop at that plateau. So going into this year specifically, the last 2 years, if you anything involved with entertainment, especially in South Africa, it's been really, really challenging, really tricky and humbling. You know, no matter how far you get up the ladder and whatever you perceive as fame and how far you perceive up the ladder, things can change like that for you, man. You might be living that best life and that good life, and then suddenly, you know, the higher powers, which God may be, has a different idea for you. So going to this year, I did a lot of quiet time with myself. A lot of things have happened for me personally in the last 2 years, and they were all drastic things that I really needed to find quiet time with myself and God, and just really think about, where do I want to go with my career? How am I going to adapt and evolve to the circumstances I find myself in? And how am I going to push myself to be a better me, a better entertainer, a better MC, and quite recently, which is one of the biggest changes which happened in 2 years, a better father to my 2 sons. You know, I became a father during COVID. It was a tricky time. Yeah. So going in 2022, basically how to evolve as an entertainer and how to adapt to the circumstances and still try your very best to monetize the talents that God has blessed you with, that you've honed and like grinded for so many years, that skill to make it sharper, you know, to make it better. So that's where I'm at. You know, I'm just looking at my circumstances. You are forever learning. You know, as human beings, we carry on learning until the day, you know, you shut your eyes on a permanent basis. You're able to learn new skills, adapt to new things, and that's where my head is at. Just keep pushing. Let's move up to a different level, you know, a next chapter, because the whole world is experiencing a very new chapter in a new way of life and how to live it. So yeah, man, 2022, adapt and evolve and better yourself, you know, bring yourself to the next level.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, people always speak about things changing, you know, and if you're not going to change or adapt, you're going to be left behind, you know. You're going to be one of those people like, can we bring back the old days? Can we know it never used to be this way, instead of just adapting and moving forward. And you mentioned becoming a father, you know, like, I know sometimes, like usually in life, we get these like almost like wake up calls, or like just like a life kind of thing, especially when you move out and you start living on your own, you know, and it's like, oh my word, then you figure out adulting, you know, you're like, okay, I gotta pay bills, I gotta do all of these responsibilities now, everything like that, and then you kind of like find a flow, but now fatherhood is a completely different chapter, you know, and no one could have prepared for your kids, you know, so. Like in the short period of time, can you share with us what you have learned, or what kind of changed about you ever since you became a father?
Sure, that's pretty deep. So my priority changed. So as a young person, you know, you have a lot of energy and you're always pushing yourself to be a better version of yourself. Almost, and I say that loosely, in a selfish desire to better yourself so that you can be the better person, right? The moment God blessed me with my first son, it wasn't about me anymore at all. Like your desire doesn't die out. You still want to be successful. You're still going to be on top of the game. You still put effort and creativity and energy into your career. But my priority became my firstborn, and then in a very short period, my secondborn. So in saying that, you want to be able to look after your seeds and your next generation, your next episode, right? And the only way you're going to do that successfully is, without a shadow of a doubt, about being the best version you can be of yourself. Because I remember as a young child, my father was my hero. You know, I come from a Mediterranean background where my father was a really strict man, hardworking man, and I looked up to my father. My father was my hero and my mentor as I was growing up as a young son. And I realized my sons are going to be looking up to me. So what better person to look up to than your father? And what pressure that puts on me is, I got to be the best version in everything I could possibly be for myself And in saying for myself, for my kids. So that was the biggest change, you know, like I've always pushed for myself, no doubt, but now when you got two young bloods looking at you and looking up at you, you just, it's like a nitrous bottle that just goes off. You want to do even better. Whatever you thought, if you thought you were like working and grinding and being consistent at a 9 out of 10, which is as close as you get to perfect. Well, for me, when I became a father, 9 out of 10 wasn't good enough. I had to be 11 out of 10. I had to constantly aim for the sky so that if you don't get the sky, you still land on the cloud and you're still like pushing hard. You know what I'm saying? You got to grind. And that was the biggest change for me, man. Like my priority became my sons. And in saying that, it put more pressure on me to be the best version of myself I could possibly be every day. When you wake up every day, you give thanks to God above and you realize, hey, God's blessed you with this talent. Yes, you've honed and worked in like developing this talent, but you got to push harder. You got to push harder. Like you got to elevate your game. You got to move up to the next level. Don't stagnate. Don't plateau. You know, a lot of young people, a lot of young MCs, you know, they look up to me and they ask me questions like, so how did you get here? How did you manage to make a career out of being an MC? Because it's really hard. You know, DJs make careers, singers become in careers, but the MC is none of that. The MC is usually the person that is amplifying and hyping the main talent, the paid talent, if you want to call it that, right? So, and my advice to these young people is like consistency. You got to get up every day and want it. And you can't, you know, we don't take day offs. You don't rest on the Sabbath, homie, as I say that figuratively. Like, you got to get up and grind, bro. And if you're not working physically with your hands or being productive with some sort of creative strategy, mentally, you got to be thinking of your next plan, your next move, your next gig, how you're going to acquire a new sponsorship, how you're going to acquire the next event. You got to be consistent. And if there's anything I can teach young people is consistency is key. Everybody's journey is different. Some success happens fairly quickly, you know, over a period of 6 months, a year. You know, now with the evolution of the internet and in social media, TikTok, you know, some people get success overnight. But most of us, for myself, it hasn't been like that. It's been a long road and you got to grind. It's that mountain that you keep on climbing every single step, you know, and you get to the hill, one rooftop and you enjoy the view for a little bit and you look up and you realize, you know, there's another hill to climb to get to the next view. So, man, consistency. Get up every day, you know, keep focused. We all get discouraged. And the saddest part for me is sometimes the people that discourage you the most are the people closest to you because they have the ability to hurt you or dig down deeper in your soul. You know, when the little chihuahuas are barking at your ankles, but you don't really know them, it's people like from a distance or, you know, people out on the internet world, it doesn't affect you. But the people that are close to you that are trying to like hold you back, that really holds you down. So it's not an easy journey. It hasn't been an easy journey for me. It's what it is.
That's absolutely true. Like you say, I can take a shot, you know, I can take anyone stabbing me in the back or saying whatever, especially if it's people you don't know. But when it comes to like close friends doing it, or like, you know, it just hurts. It just tastes a little different, you know, it just stings a little different. Somehow you kind of remember it for such a long time, you know, and you question yourself, you question the situation, you question the person, you know. Whereas opposed, you would just easily just get over other people. You just acknowledge, like, you know, that's you wicked, that's your vibe. And now, but like when someone close to you hits you, you know, it's kind of like a different story. And like I like the way that you explained everything, you know, that it actually just made you push even more harder, becoming a father. Because I mean, when you're pushing for yourself, you could possibly, you know, you're okay with taking a knock or taking, you know, a setback. Because you're like, you know what, these things happen. But now that you're a father, you're like, no, there's no time for knocks, there's no time for setbacks. You know, I'm not just doing it for me, you know, I'm doing this for my kids. Yeah. And like you're saying that, like from your experience seeing your father, you know, and seeing him as a great example, you also pushing yourself not only to be a great example as well, but also You want to create something that they could learn from, you know. They want to create a path that if they ever they want to follow, you know, there is a path that they can follow you on. Obviously, they're going to make their own decisions at the end of the day. But the important fact is that you're creating space for them. You're creating room for them. You're making sure that it's safe for them. And salute you to that, man. I think that's a lesson I'll take in my book, because I feel like I'll be a father soon.
Hey, man, you know, yeah. I promise you, that second one came and I was like, you know, I wasn't even scoring. I wasn't even at the penalty. Like, Mark just sort of hit me home quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those nights. It's like, hey, wait, when?
Yeah, no, I wasn't there at the penalty box there. I wasn't scoring there, but hey, it's all good. It came away and I'm super happy.
You had to track the game. Which game was this now again?
Yeah. It came about something similar to that.
Yeah. No, listen, as a little Vic, you know, the life that you're living now, is it something that you've always seen as a little kid? You know, can you explain to us, you know, when it all started? What were you like as a little kid? What was your dreams like? And when did you become the person that you are today?
Kind of had a mixed travel to get to the point where I am. So I come from a really humble background. My parents were immigrants. They came here from Portugal to try and, you know, work and give it and get a better life, you know, try and make a better income. And I was born here. I'm proudly South African, 110%. And my dad was a construction worker, worked most of his life away. My mom was, you know, typical Portuguese mom. She was like a housewife, brought us up, always ate well, you know what I'm saying? And as a kid, we grew up in Joburg, CBD, and then we grew up in a neighborhood called Bertram's. And I've always been a kid that loved cars. I was that kid. I played with all the cars that my parents could afford to give me. I played outside, made makeshift, you know, sand roads in the sand. Was always on my skateboard, was always on my BMX. I've always been around that car vibe, like anything that had wheels, anything that I could, you know, as a kid modify. Modifying wasn't much, maybe changing bearings on your skateboard or changing tires on your BMX, but I've always been that kid, right?
Yeah.
My dad got a helping hand later in his life, and we moved to the South of Joburg. The South of Joburg changed me a lot because it was a different upbringing. You know, when I grew up in Bertram's, it most probably was an humble neighborhood for what it was. People didn't really look at what you wore or the brands that you were rocking on the sneaker. I was also much younger when I came to the South. You know, I was entering my teenage years, so I realized there was a different angle to life. In saying that, growing up in the South introduced me to the game of basketball. I've still got a really good friend named Ruka. He was my best friend at the time. He was playing basketball. His mom was involved in the coaching, and they're like, "Yo, Vic, you know, you're getting quite tall. You know, come play ball." Yeah. And I took to the game really, really well. So my teenage years, as much as the car, I was still a car guy. I was still that kid that was, you know, my dad had a little Foxy back in the day that I used to drive. So I started driving at a really, really, really young age. I was driving a car by the age of 11, and I could drive a car comfortably by myself by the age of 13. Not that I did on public roads, but I'm just saying. So even though the car stayed with me, my focused on basketball, and I played ball really well. As a teenager, I had the goals of obviously going to play in the States and somehow, some way, trying to see if you could get into the NBA. You know, that like as a ball player, that was the ultimate, right? So I played basketball. I did really well. I was captain on my basketball team, high school, throughout junior and high. I played for the president team, provincials. I played for South Africa. I represented my South Africa, which is one of my biggest accomplishments. I actually loved it. Yeah. And then came of age to about 18. I was offered a scholarship to go play in the States, right? Which was exactly what I wanted. Okay. But unfortunately, at that time, my mom was ill, and my father worked away, and it was really difficult for me. But I couldn't leave my mom because it was just me and my mom at home at the moment. My sister had been married by then, And my mom, being the elder, she basically said, I can't let you go because I might need you here. And it was a very, very difficult decision for me to swallow. But I did it because my mom, as a Portuguese kid, you only have one mom. Hey, as any kid, you only have one mom, right? So I carried on playing ball. I played at Rao. I carried on playing club basketball, but that dream almost diminished a little bit. If there was 10 candles around that dream, the candles dropped to about 4, because I realized that if I couldn't get into a scholarship, it would be like very, very little. So from then, my focus went all into cars. Back then, I started a club as a young teenager. I was about 17. I was still in school. I started at a club called SouthSide Crew, and we started having a lot of meets, informal meets, get-togethers, and I ran that for about 3 years. And I met another friend of mine named Dawud. He was running a different club in a different area of Joburg, basically the western area. And we joined together and became best friends, and we ran SouthSide Crew.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much my career started. If you want to go more into it, we ran SouthSide Crew as a club for 5 years informally, and then we got graced with a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
By then we were in the early 20s, and we were approached by a racing legend back then. His name is Peter Lindenberg, South African champion in skiing, South African racing car champion in many facets of motorsport. And he said, listen, instead of you guys hanging out on the streets and getting up to mischief, here's a brand new track that I've just finished building. And if you can get the kids off the street and do it in a safe environment, I'm going to give you the safe environment to do it. And as a young 22-year-old kid, you grab that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that truly is the beginning of my career in entertainment. We started running drag racing, became a drag manager, but most importantly, I became the hype man for the drags. And that had already happened on the street. I was the loud boy in the class. I was that guy disturbing the teacher, much to many teachers' not happiness. And man, when I got to Westbank Raceway, I started emceeing, physically on the mic, and that truly was the roots of my career. That's where I started it all for me. And I got to give big props to Peter Lindenberg for entrusting 2 young kids. We were 20 and 21-year-olds, me and Dawud, and he gave us an opportunity that definitely shaped and changed our lives going forward.
Yeah, man. Wow. That's awesome. And wow, I mean, just
there's a lot, bro.
Yeah, focus first love, which was the cars, Who would have thought that you would turn around from basketball, go back to your first love and actually make a career out of it now. That's pretty awesome. And did you have any, what were some of your challenges as a young Vic, things that you really found as a kid, growing up, some super challenging versus some of the things that you find now as an adult, in your adult life challenging?
So the biggest thing in the youth of my career, in the beginning steps, was being young and being taken seriously as a young person. Back then, especially people that were older than you, they kept on looking at you as a young person, as an inexperienced person, or someone who didn't know about life or didn't have enough knowledge. So that was very frustrating for me, because even though I was young, I had been doing it for a long time. I was passionate about what I was doing. I was super creative, and I still like to think I am creative in that way. And it was super frustrating to be almost shut down or ignored purely because you were the youngest person sitting around the table in the meeting. That was really one of my man. It was frustrating for me. It was very difficult to get people will hear you, but not everybody will listen to you. You know what I'm saying? It was hard for people to listen and acknowledge my ideas, or my thoughts or angles on, let's say, events or how certain things should be run. That was one of my trickiest and biggest challenges as a young person in my career, most definitely, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the challenges you find now as as present day in your career?
My challenges is time management. So as a young person, your responsibilities tend to be a lot less. And as you grow older, you have different chapters in your life. And those chapters of your life add more responsibilities to your life. And by adding more responsibilities to your life, they consume time in your day.
Yeah.
Whether if you've got several different other, let's say, businesses or sources of income, you have to manage those businesses or sources of income to make sure they run correctly and profitable. Otherwise, you will be losing money in those investments. Family life, you become married, you're responsible to your wife as a good man and to spend time with your wife, which is needed in a marriage. And then you become a father and your kids need time. So managing my time has been tricky, trying to balance the time with my family life, my professional life, and everything else that I'm also currently working on as projects. So my biggest thing is, get yourself a proper, to-do list on your cell phone. And if you're someone who still writes in a diary, by all means, it will work. Physically write things down. Because you need to be reminded, or for me, I need to be reminded on a daily, what are the goals that I need to try and achieve for this week? What are the things or the deadlines that I need to work on? So that's been pretty much my hardest, just time management and making sure you dedicate enough energy and concentrated, focused time on each of your projects or areas of life.
Absolutely. And with motorsport, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
I think I only know a few avenues. For example, you get the drag racing, you get drifting, which you do, and you get the circuit as well, which you go around the lap a couple of times, and then you get also the car shows. I believe that's also part of the whole sport.
Yeah.
Is there any other category that actually happens that we don't know of?
So the biggest motorsport, without a shadow of a doubt, right now on this African continent is the sport of spinning. It is the most well-attended events, without a shadow of a doubt, with the least amount of investment and capital behind them. Spinning is absolutely blown up on this African continent, especially in South Africa. Traditionally, circuit racing, drag racing will happen once a month. If you live in the GP area code and within a 4-hour radius of traveling, there's spinning events every single weekend, without a shadow of a doubt. The characters and athletes and spinners that are coming out of spinning are just so uniquely African, creative, and amazing. Guys are sitting at home and girls are sitting at home and thinking about what's the new stunt, how they're going to develop it, how they're going to, which event are they going to showcase the new stunt, their new skills. And it's just so overwhelming and in a good way to be a part of the sport right now, because there's so much young talent coming into our sport, and when I mean young, I mean I don't know if you've ever watched spinning, but spinning is quite crazy. I always say it's the art of controlling chaos, because guys are throwing donuts, they're doing power slides, they're jumping out of the car while the car's in motion, and steering the car from the passenger seat. There's so much going on, yet you got young talent to the age of 11, 12, 13. One of the youngest talents is coming out of Cape Town City, Shane Green Jr. That the boy's just turned 13. That boy drives a car like a professional 25-year-old stunt driver, like he drives properly. And it's so awesome to see so much talent, being poured onto the spinning scene right now, and new ideas and creative ways to approach the pitch and do stunts and choreography on the track itself. And it's so amazing to watch right now, man.
That's super cool. The kids are not even legal to be driving, but they've got skill. They've got skills that some professional drivers can't even pull off.
I promise you, it's the truth. I'm not talking about a kid just getting in a E30 box shape and just throwing a donut. No, my man, I'm
Yeah.
talking about guys like really pushing the limits and pushing the envelope of the sport where, you know, some of the veterans are looking at the pitch and going, wow, you know,
Yeah.
he can drive, not because he's a kid, not because he's young, but
Yeah.
he has talent. He can spin. He can put it up against the wall without, you know, smashing. He can put it in the box. He's throwing stunts. And I'm like, wow, he's only 13 years young. Can you imagine that kid in 5 years' time? No, it's crazy, man. It's like insane.
Hectic. And like, what are the prizes like? Do these events ever like grow to a point where it's like international, you know, and like international platform interacting with
So
international? Like, or what
I
are
must
some of
say,
the?
like, there's a lot of events that happen every weekly. You don't necessarily like win anything. I'll tell you a little bit more about the in-depth of the sport in a second, but the premier event right now is an event that's very close to my heart, and you know, I co-founded with Red Bull. It's called Red Bull Cheyenne Motor, and at
Yeah.
the moment, it's the premier event purely because Red Bull has assisted and given back to the community by creating this spectacular like international stage for us as young spinners or spinners to perform on. And that's become the premier event. And the spinners there, they take cash prizes home. There's a whole bunch of sponsors coming on board which assist with the event. But from you know, when you watch Cheyenne Motor, it's the stage. You know, Red Bull, when Red Bull does something, they do it right. They've got the right partners that they've been working with for many years, throwing really good, high quality events, and they've just created an amazing platform to catapult young talent that hasn't gone to the main stages or the main pitches and get a lot of eyes on them via like, you know, so many thousands of people watching them on Red Bull TV or streaming on YouTube. It's just, from that point of view, it's been fantastic. Now, when you're saying like trophies and stuff, what's really cool about spinning as a sport, so most motorsports in our country, we as a driver, you know, we will pay a promoter to be a part of the event to go race. So if you're racing, let's say in a national circuit racing, you know, you're paying fees of about 1,800 Rand to 4,000 Rand, depending on which circuit you're racing on. Spinning has evolved as a sport with no interaction or help from the outside world or from corporates. And spinning has become a traveling circus. So I say that in a way where the performers and the spinners, if you become a high-end like poster boy, they actually become paid athletes. And it gets to the point where, yeah, if you do really well, you could almost not right there just yet, but you could almost make a living and a career out of being a professional spinner in our country at the moment. If you're at the top, if you're at the top of the game, you know, you can't live with it by yourself, especially if you've got a family or whatever. But as a young person, you know, you're definitely getting paid to perform and do something you love. And how cool is that? Like, you don't get that anywhere else in motorsport on this African continent unless you're a high-end sponsored athlete by, you know, sponsors investing in yourself as a driver. But as spinning goes, you know, if you start doing really well, yeah, man, it becomes like a traveling circus, and the athletes go with them and the spinners go with them to different events, different parts of our country. And if you're doing like, you know, you're on the poster, if your name's on the poster, you got your face and your car on the poster, well, then you're going to be paid for your performance. And it's really cool because it gives back to the spinners and helps them reinvest in themselves, in their cars, in their brands, in their careers.
Awesome. And like with going back to your journey, you know, I know like the area where I come from in a lot of Cape Flat areas, we faced with challenges like gangsterism, alcohol as abuse, drugs, and all of that. Was that ever like a challenge to you in the phase of your life, you know, where you had to like fight that off or
I
fight off
keep
some
saying, you know,
who turned the wrong way in that kind of way?
my biggest gratitude goes to my mom. And now that I've become a parent, I realize how important it is to instill good foundation, good values in your children, because you can never protect your children truly from the outside world. You know, they will be around negative elements. They will be around people that are using narcotics. They will be around people that maybe have negative intentions and maybe bullying other kids or just tend to like start leaning towards criminal activities. And the best way to protect your kids is to empower them with a powerful mind and to teach him the basic foundations of morals, discipline, and the fact that you can be your own person in your own body, that you do not have to replicate or copy someone else to be a cool kid or to be unique or to be followed or, you know, someone looked up to. And my biggest gratitude goes to my mom. You know, my mom was a big, huggable Portuguese woman, man. And she lived with a wooden spoon. And I was a kid that I grew up and I did get hidings. And I deserved every single hiding I got because I was a naughty kid. But my mom instilled those values in me, and she made, I give thanks to my mom. She like really made sure, like, listen, whatever you do, wherever you go in your life, you know, make sure, be your own man. You don't need this. So my biggest thing when I was growing up, especially as a teenager, was narcotics and drugs. Like in every high school that you go to in South Africa, you will always, every kid will be at least once, twice exposed to some sort of narcotics, drugs. It is what it is. And unfortunately, you know, the popular kids are usually the kids that are, and I say this loosely, I'm just generalizing, are usually the kids that are involved in taking drugs. It is what it is, you know. And these days you got such heavy, rough, like poisonous stuff, you know, nyope, oaks, like terrible, like crystal meth that is being cooked in the kitchen with nasty chemicals that your mother has in the kitchen, like counter. It's like poisonous, deadly, evil nastiness, right? And growing up, that was my biggest thing. Like, not a lot, like a lot of, like most of my social circle all did some sort of drugs. And it was recreational drugs back at the time, you know. We'd go clubbing and Oaks would be, you know, popping pills and like doing a lot of crazy stuff. And luckily for me, I've just got to give thanks to my mom. My mom just instilled, like, you know, you don't have to do that to be a part of a crew or to carve your own personality out or be your own person, you know. I was always me. Like, I didn't need alcohol. I didn't need narcotics to better who I was or to amplify my personality or to encourage me to approach a girl or, you know, to get over my fear of anxiety of being like funny in front of people. You know, I give thanks to that, and that all comes from what my mom taught me, the morals, discipline, and just basic foundations that she gave me. And that was my biggest hurdle, was by people who were doing those drugs and luckily not having to ever partake in them. I never judged anybody who did that. You know, I believe everybody's got their own journey to travel. I never looked down on anybody who did it. If anybody ever came to me and asked me for help, you know, I was always there to assist them. But thankfully, I never needed to do any of that. And I'm grateful, again, bro, I'm grateful to God's protection, but mostly to my mom for just, you know, instilling the right things in me.
Yeah. Like earlier in your story, you said that, you know, your direction kind of like took a different from basketball, cars, you know. But like, is there any other turning point that you would say kind of like changed your life? For like, for example, with me, back in 2010, everything was like cool, and then I fell ill with TB, and then the experience that I had with that and like finding out my purpose, for me, it was my turning point, because I was never ever the same again after that experience. And usually people get that when they have a close to death experience or when they lose like someone close. Besides you walking, like having to take care of your mother and going into the direction of cars, what would you describe as also a turning point for you? Like you said, also maybe it could have been the time when you became a father, you know, because you're like, hey, you know, things are gonna change, I have to change, that kind of thing. But is there other moments that you feel that was a turning point for you?
There was a period of about 4 years that was really strenuous on me, because I ended up losing my mom and my dad as a very young person, and I lost them within about 9 months of each other. And at the time, I was about 24 years old, and I first lost my father, which then superimpose the fact that, hey, you know, I had to step up and be the man of the house, right? And try and look after my mom. My mom at the time was already elderly. She didn't work. She was always a housewife, dependent on my dad. So that pressure, like, you know, mounted up really quickly. And then my mom was sickly for many years, and she was fighting, and she fought a good battle. And then she got worse. You know, I think when two people are together for so long and they lose one half, you know, the other half soon follows. So I lost my mom, I lost my dad, and then I basically had a nervous breakdown. I had a nervous breakdown. I suffered from depression for a period of a year. It was dark and it was rough, and people that don't understand depression don't know how to approach you. So that was a period of 4 years. It was 2008 for me was one of the darkest years of my life. I was in the depth of that black hole of depression. My best friend died, whom I love and is my blood. Like at that time, he didn't know how to handle it. He was hurting because he saw me hurting, and I was in a really dark place. I got to the point where I wasn't leaving the house. I wasn't eating. Got to the point so bad that I was on medication. I wasn't eating. I was just on medication. I was like, you know, hurling and not eating. And I was just in a really dark hole. And I remember my best friend came to my house. And I think seeing him like that shocked him. And he just had like a massive blowout. He just started arguing and fighting. And like, he just didn't know how to react me. And he was trying to shock me out of this. Or like, you know, give me a PK back to life. Like, yo, you know, grab a hold of yourself. You know, you got your whole life ahead of you. And it was a really, really hard year for me. It was dark, and I had never experienced something like that. I was feeling a lot of pain for so many reasons. The 2000 year was also, you know, it was the year that Westbank had closed. So my career was at a crossroads. A lot of people were now telling me like, yo, Vic, listen, you know, you can't MC for a living. You can't do this for the rest of your life. You know, eventually you're going to get older. You're going to have to, like, you know, look after yourself and put food and bread on the table. And it was just a dark place for me to be. And I remember the stepping stone to me getting better in 2008. I got a call we got season 4 of Mzanzi Ridez approved by Channel O. And we needed to go back to the States. We were shooting in Las Vegas and LA. And the production crew didn't know what was going on in my life. No one did, unless you were in my inner circle. And I gathered whatever strength I had at the time. And I packed my bags and, you know, I headed for the airport. And in packing my bags, I completely forgot my medicine at home, the medication that I was on, which was pretty strong at the time. I was on a lot of antidepressants. I was on a lot of sleeping tablets. I was overdoing the sleeping tablets. And I forgot all of that at home. And we landed in LA. And because I was away from the norm, you know, your natural surroundings, the people that reminded you of things, the people that caused you pain, whatever, because you were in a completely new surrounding, and I had a purpose and a goal to fulfill for those 3 weeks, which was to shoot and be the best version of me as a presenter, I managed to just find the strength to take that first step out of that hole. It was only step 1, but it was that first step. And yeah, the end of 2008 was definitely the changing point in my life, where I realized, Vic, you know what? You got to pick yourself out of this. If you ever want to be successful in what you do in life, you can't let this darkness control you or grab you, because depression is not a joke, and people who don't know about it don't understand it.
True.
And it's hard. It's hard for people who haven't gone through it, or haven't had someone go through it, sometimes to understand someone who's going through it. So Mzanzi Ridez was shot that season, and I was away from home for about 3 weeks. And I remember landing back in South Africa. I wasn't on my medication. You're supposed to wean yourself off that stuff. I got back home and I was like, okay, Vic, God's given you like a little holiday, like a breather, a stepping stone. You've managed to get on the stepping stone. Now you got to keep on climbing. It's only one step. You got to keep on climbing out of this hole. This hole's black. It's deep. You got to keep on going. And I kept on going. It was really hard. So at that time, so I had weekly gigs at Westbank Raceway, which was keeping me like employed and financially stable. And now I was this entertainer / MC, and I needed to like make a success. Otherwise, I needed to find a 9-to-5 job, which, if you know me personally, would never suit me, and I can't sit still, and I would struggle even more. Yeah. So that just pushed me. I realized, hey, you know what? I got nothing to fall back on. I've got no mom and dad as a cushion to fall back on. If I mess this up, I got no one to run to, in the sense of like I can't go back to mom and dad's house and sleep in the extra bedroom or anything like that, right? And that was the biggest change in my life. I took that first step. I kept on stepping. I started getting gigs. I started getting bookings. I realized I've got to be more active in the scene if I need to make the monetization of your talent a success. In other words, you got to get more gigs to have enough money at the end of the month to pay your bills and make a success out of this. And that's what happened, man. I look back, I realized, hey, Vic, you got no mom and dad no more. You're still young. You got to push hard, and you got nothing to fall back on. So if you mess this up, there's nothing else left for you. And that's what I've been doing every single day. When I wake up, I get up, I grind, and I try and be the best version of myself than I was the day before. For anybody with depression, like anybody who's had that, let me tell you, for me personally, it's something that you will always battle with. You will get better. You will heal. You will not be in that black, deep hole. But for me, in my personal life, you have waves. It's so hard for me to try and describe to someone who hasn't had it. But like, you'll wake up in the morning and you'll realize that you just feel heavy. It's like a wet blanket. Like someone's just, as you wake up and get out of bed, someone's put a wet blanket over you. And you still struggle with those feelings. But through the years, you've learned to empower yourself with tools, thoughts, positive messages to work through the blanket. In other words, to have enough strength to take this heavy feeling, this dark feeling off you right then and there in the morning, so that it doesn't spoil the rest of your day. So yeah, that was definitely a changing point in my life, and that's what got me busy, and I've pushed every single day since then, man. I still wake up today and I push hard every single day.
I love that, and I love the fact that kind of like you forgetting your poles back home was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it was like you have nothing to depend on now. You just gotta like literally pick yourself up. These people have no idea, so you don't want to bring their energy down in some kind of way. You're like, no, I have to deliver. They're expecting a certain level from me, and I have to deliver. And it's not like I can run home or do anything. Like, I'll be here now. And also like just also being present and telling yourself, I'm in a different space. There's a different opportunity, the energy is different, everything like that. I need to adapt. So, I mean, that attitude, I asked you, what was your attitude for this year? Sounds like you had that attitude back then already. It kind of like forced you to do that, and I appreciate that you sharing, how tough it was, and also just sharing that with other people, that it's also important. Because I was going to ask you, how'd you get yourself out of it? But like you shared, there was an opportunity and you had to just take a step forward, and it counts, just that first step.
People don't realize how important that first step is. And the step doesn't have to be a high step. It can be a really, really low step. Like, as long as you take that first step and you accept that, hey, listen, I'm experiencing this. I am sad. I am going through something. Don't try and deny it. Like, accept it, but as much as I've accepted, I also have accept that I need to get better for myself and for the loved ones around me. Like, I need to better, like I need to work towards something better. And take that first step is the only step you need to take. The rest come easier. They ain't going to be easy, but they will be easier than that first step you take.
Absolutely. And I love that you're saying also take that first step, because it teaches you accountability, you know, that you need to take that step. No one can bring you out. Yes, people will bring you to things, to parties, to do that, but you could still be depressed in that spaces, you know. So it becomes a personal decision to make that step, you know, and come out of it and step out of it. Here's a silly question. And it's a very silly question. In your own experience, you know, with the drag and all of that, have you found that with different races, they love certain types of cars? Like, for example, like with black people, do they like the BMX box, not the BMX, the BMW box shape, you know? And do colored people prefer Volkswagen? What do white people drive? You know, what do Indian people drive? What do the youngsters drive? Have you kind of like experienced like, there's some pattern going on here with the races, that unspoken pattern, unspoken thing that goes on with the races? Have you experienced that?
I wouldn't call it a race thing as much as an area thing. Like, you know, you're always influenced by the cool guys in your area as you're growing up as a young kid, right? And wherever they drive, you tend to aspire to drive. And areas like, for me, like I see like Kaapstad. Kaapstad is JDM diehards. Like, you know, we don't have any Honda S2000s left in Joburg because they're all down in Kaapstad. Up here in Joburg, obviously, you know, VW is huge here in Joburg. It really is. So is BMW. When it comes to race, like, no, I wouldn't say it's a racing. It's the area that you came from and grew up. I think as a young kid, you're directly influenced by the people you look up to or the people that you think are cool or mentors and what they drive. And you tend to want to drive what they drive, right? So depending which areas you came from, like, you know, if the cool kids were rocking G5s at the time, you know, when you become 18, you also want to rock a VW or you want to rock the newer version, which would have been a G7 or G8 today. So it's definitely, for me, my personal opinion, area-based more than race-based. Obviously, you know, there will be racers that would like certain cars. I wouldn't like deny that. But for me, it's more definitely, you know, the hood, the kasi, the neighborhood, the suburb you grew up with. What were the people that were doing well or the cool kids rocking in that neighborhood? That tends what you were aspired to drive.
Awesome. Okay. Never looked at it that way, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What's the most iconic event that you've ever been to? Could be through racing, emceeing, or anything like something that you would be like, you know, I wouldn't mind reliving that moment again.
So that's easy. That's really easy. So I've been blessed to be asked to be a judge representing South Africa at the world famous SEMA show, which happens in Las Vegas. So SEMA show, Lunga, it's a huge, insane, massive car show. Like, it's massive. So you're there for 5 days, from 8 to 6. You average about 36,000 steps for 5 whole days, and you still don't get to see every single car and everything that's on display. It's just, there's so much to absorb there. It's crazy. Obviously, you know, being in South Africa, we follow a lot of the Western car personalities. So all the personalities are there. Gas Monkey Garage, Street Outlaws, Chip Foose, all the people that you see like on local channels, Discovery, streaming on YouTube, all the Formula Drift guys, they all come to that show. It's a massive car show. It's called SEMA. I've been blessed to be a judge there twice, representing South Africa. And if I went there every single year of my life, I will never, ever get bored. It is, man, it's the candy shop if you're a car guy. It's the candy shop.
Sounds amazing. I mean, how can you over 5 days? 5 days is long enough, and you still haven't seen it all?
Never. So I've been to SEMA. I've been very fortunate I've been to SEMA about 5 or 6 times, and twice as a judge. I've never seen the whole SEMA show in 1 year. Like, there's so much to absorb. You know what it is like, Lunga, if you're a car guy, you see a really hot ride, whether it be a low rider, a time attack car, a resto mod, whatever, you see a hot ride. if you spend 10 minutes absorbing this ride, appreciating its paintwork, the choice of wheel, the suspension modifications, the fabrication, but 10 minutes is nothing. You could easily spend an hour around one car, but you only got, let's say, 8 hours of the day, right? And I don't know, like I don't know how many cars there are in SEMA, but there's like maybe possibly like 1,000 or so. And there's just so much to absorb. SEMA would definitely be the one.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best, man. Hopefully they invite you this year again to be part of it, and many more years. And one day, hopefully you can take your kids, your little boys, to the whole experience as well, you know? So yeah, man, let's keep trying to manifest that. Vic, I've had a lovely time chatting with you, brother. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you, man. So I have my final question that I have to ask, and I ask all my guests this question. You know, if I were to put you into my time machine and dial it back to a time, a younger version of you, you can pick the time where you felt that you maybe needed some guidance and some advice. And it's the Vic of the day, you know, having walked the journey that you've walked through, learned the lessons that you've learned, you know, with all the knowledge and wisdom that you have today. And you meeting up with a younger version of yourself just to give him some advice for like 5 minutes, some guidance, what would that be? Vic, you still with us? Yo, Vic, looking kind of serious. No. Okay. He's having a little glitch on his side. I mean, there was a few glitches before, but never lasted like this. Just give me a second, guys. Just trying to figure out what should I do. These things, what you call it? Okay. Oh, well, looks like we lost Vic over there with the very last question. We might not get to find out what he would say to the younger version of himself. But nevertheless, he's been a really good guest and it's been awesome tonight. I enjoyed myself speaking to Vic and learning more about motorsport. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to get Vic's social handles, but when we do so, we'll drop them down in the link. So if you guys want to follow Vic on his journey and just support, we can find his social handles in, oh, there we go, following that right there. If you want to follow me, you can catch me on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are tuning in from YouTube, you can catch me on Facebook at Lunga Tshuka, the Energizer Funny. That is Lunga Tshuka, the Energizer Funny. On Instagram, you can catch me at Lunga Tshuka. And hey, he's back.
Sorry, homie. I thought I might try and quickly save that last question.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Like I was saying, if you had a few moments to speak to the younger version of yourself, you know, and you could give him a little bit of advice, what would that advice be?
Sure. If I had to ask, what would I tell myself?
Yeah.
Sure. Wow, it's deep. I'd tell myself not to be intimidated by other people. Like, God has created everybody uniquely. And God is always, for me, this is how I believe, right? God has created you for a purpose. So don't let other personalities with maybe some negative intentions or not the best interest in your life intimidate you, or how can I say, rough up your positive energy. Don't let them have influence in your life. That's what I would say to myself. Like, don't get me wrong, you got to look up to people, you got to have mentors in your life, and I've had a great mentor. But don't be intimidated by other people or other personalities that might not have the best intentions for you. Don't be intimidated by them. God created you just as special, just as unique as the next person. Nothing stops you from attaining greatness or being better than the person who you feel intimidated by. Don't be intimidated by them, bro. God has created everybody uniquely. Be yourself. That's my best advice as well. That's one thing I followed. I'm grateful. I didn't even need to give myself a younger version of that, but be yourself. Yes, you can take inspiration from people and mentors that you look up to, but don't try and replicate anyone else. Just be you. That's what I got to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vic, for your little effort. Thank you for coming back, because that was a very lovely message that I felt like we needed to hear as well. Truly appreciate it, brother. Before I let you go, anything that you feel like you would love to share that you maybe feel like I didn't give you the opportunity to share? You know, anything that I didn't let you cover?
You know, let me say this. I got to say something. So I was telling about people that you look up to in life, right? I do believe that as an aspiring person in life, in any industry in your life, you should find some person that you could be mentored from, or a mentor, or someone who could give you advice that you don't have to find the hard way, right? Because I've learned in my life, because I'm stubborn in the personality I've always been, I've always learned my best lessons the hardest way. I've learned through hard knocks, right? In saying that, I've had an inspirational mentor, and he's always been someone that I look up to in life, and I continue to look up to. He's actually based in Cape Town. If anybody knows DJ Ready D, I met DJ Ready D as a young person. So D and I have been friends. I've been blessed to have his friendship for many, many years. And I started out as a young kid. We met at a record shop. He was busy going through some vinyl crates. And I remember seeing his reggae ring, and I was like, damn, that's Ready D, right? So as we were walking out, he saw my Golf. I had a really obviously hooked up modified Golf. And he's like, is that your ride? I was like, yeah, this is my Golf. And that's how our friendship started, man. He liked cars, I liked hip hop. I've always been a hip hop head. And we became really good friends. And let me tell you, sir, Ready D for me is the most inspirational mentor I've had in my life for many reasons. And one reason is you will never find a more humble entertainment personality ever. You know, D has won so many championships, so many accolades, so many good, fruitful attributes in hip hop. And he still maintained his humbleness. Yeah. He's someone that always gives back to the community in some way or form. He'll find a workshop, he'll find anything to empower the young talent of Cape Town and South Africa as a whole. And he still maintained his professional career at the highest level. You know, we all started out like as young 20-year-olds. We get older, you know, new talent comes up, and D's stayed on that, like, you know, pushing the envelope, stayed on top of his game. And in saying that, as much as he's been staying there, he's still the most humble person you'll ever meet in my life. And I've learned a lot from Ready D, bro. He's just, you know, we worked together on the Mzanzi Ridez for 4 seasons. We've worked together on many occasions on various car shows. We've shared the stage on many occasions, and he continues to inspire me. He continues to inspire me to be a better entertainer and to use the influence or the network that I've created over the years to empower others and to give back some way, somehow. So definitely every young person should have someone to look up to. I do think as long as that person's a positive figure and truly wants the best for you, it definitely saves you a lot of lessons. He's taught me a lot, and I've always learned that the biggest thing you can do is do it well and do it in your actions, because you will be the best example to other people by doing your actions correctly. So people look up to you. You know, if you're doing good, if you're being a good person, if you're working hard, you're putting in extra hours, people look up to that and they aspire to be you, and they will take absorb and sponge like good information off that example. And without a shadow of a doubt, Ridez, he's been that figure for me in my life. He continues to be that figure in my life. And the craziest thing is, you know, he lives in Cape Town. I live in Joburg. We don't see each other that often. I wish I'd see him more often. But without a shadow of a doubt, like, huge inspiration in my career. Huge in many ways, bro. He's a great family man. You know, I'd go visit him at home, and
Yeah.
like, remember I told you about time management, which is really tricky with entertainment. He's managed to get that right. Like, when he's on the decks, he's on the ones and twos, and he's like, you know, taking the crowd on the dance floor from here to a level 11. When he's on the radio show, he's inspiring, giving back. And when he's at home, he's just as great as a father and a husband to his family as he is to the entertainer that we know him out there. So yeah, props to D, bro. I appreciate everything he's inspired me to be and do.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Vic. I've had a lovely night with you. Thank you so much for your story. So much for me, and inspired so much. Truly appreciate it. For those who are not following you just yet, you know, want to be part of your journey, can you please drop all your social handles so we can be part of that?
It's easy, man. If you just type in, my full name is Victor Pardal, Pardal. If you Google that or you put that on your socials, most people know me as Vic. I've just shortened my name as Vic Pardal. And if you type in that, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you'll find me. I'm the loud boy.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much. May you have a lovely evening further with your family. And I'll definitely take a lot out of your book and into my book as well. Thank you so much, brother. Have a lovely evening further.
Thanks, boy. Blessings. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye. Ciao.
Well, like I was saying, ladies and gents, thank you to Vic for coming back to save the end of his interview. I really loved that last part. But yeah, for those of you who want to follow me on Instagram, it's Lunga Tshuka. And for exclusive snippets of the Price of Fame episodes, you can also catch that on Instagram at the Price of Fame ZA. And in the link in the bio, will send you straight to my YouTube page where you can catch the extended episodes of the Price of Fame, season 1 right through up to season 2. Thank you so much for those of you who always tune in and share and like and comment. I truly appreciate you. You do so much for the growth of the brand, and it means a lot to me. It validates what I'm doing. Thank you so much. Let's keep giving each other the love and motivation and inspiration. Let it go back and forth. That's it for me, ladies and gents. My name is Lunga Tshuka. This is The Price of Fame.